6:30.
Oh, okay. They're in the night, so I'll have to call the meeting, whatever. And start with the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So Corey, let me know then at some point you wanna,
It's all yours. It's a Tuesday, it's a third Tuesday.
okay, very good. We'll start the roll call.
Everyone is present.
Here, Eric, very much.
Mark and Susan are online.
So hopefully everybody has met Jeff. He was here remote last time, and so he's very personal. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the meetings from 11/18. I need a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Any a second?
Second.
Any discussions, corrections, comments? If none, need need approval vote for the minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Extension, noes? Thank you. Thank you, Jerry, for the minutes.
Welcome.
Next item, public comments. Love comments. No one, you have another chance at the end.
There's no one online.
One on one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, then we'll get right to this. It's a long agenda, so we'll try to move this reasonably quickly. So the treasury report is.
Sure.
Okay.
I have a short treasurer's report. What's up? Okay, so we'll start with our executive summary. So as of November 30, 2025, for fiscal year 26, fiscal year to date, the town has received revenue of $30,776,496, or 58.2% of the total amount of $52,843,405 budgeted for fiscal year 26. When comparing our performance to last fiscal year, we are 1.1% behind this time last year. We'll just do our quick comment regarding the mini golf. So during November, $1,656 in mini golf fees were transferred to the Park and Rec Strategic Sinking Fund. So fiscal year to date, mini golf revenue totals are $201,314. So the current balance in Fund 3053 is $819,368. Any questions there?
That should be the last transfer, I'm assuming, since it's closed. That's, yeah.
That'll be it for the
Until, no, for the calendar year, but
calendar year.
fiscal year starting May-ish, maybe April.
And we just following up that question then, so is it fair to compare the 200,000 to last year's 145,000?
How far shows?
I mean, it's on the next page, but it's for year 25 year to date receipt was 145,000.
Yeah.
So sometimes we both, then, arrears, there's a timing difference, but I don't know necessarily the exact answer to that, but it would be a timing issue is my first guess.
I see.
Where is it on the next page?
But like
Oh, I put 145, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fiscal year to date fees, so
Yeah.
145 versus 201.
yeah,
So we're
so
ahead of schedule,
that's
yes.
pretty
Yeah, we
good.
are ahead of
Yeah.
schedule. Yeah.
50,000, I mean, that's
Yeah.
not some change.
Yeah, we had a good season.
We'll take that.
Yeah, no, I mean.
So the other difference is that last year we were still accepting $5 for each ticket. And this year we're putting the full $7. So $2 were going to the strategic fund this year out of that 145. This is probably pretty close.
Oh, I see what you, yeah, right, I see. Thanks very much.
Okay. Okay, so next we'll move to our authorized investment section. So at the end of November, the town had 39.3 million in its bank accounts. So in the last month, the stiff rate has been declining slightly again to 4.12. Today, it's dropped under under 4, I mean, to 3.88. And Webster, as I explained to you guys last month, gives us the stiff rate in arrears. And their rate last month was 4.31. Okay,
So Barbara, with the Fed cutting rates last week or so, that's what you're saying, the 4.12 because of the
so all of a sudden,
25
stiff,
basis points.
yeah, stiff has gone down to 3.88.
Yeah.
It's
The money
going
we
to,
can make on money is just going down.
Yeah.
it's still not a bad rate though.
No,
You know, and the fact that Webster gives us it a month in arrears, we're still always making a little more money in Webster. So we do very well with that. Yet, you know, Stiff does a 7-day running rate, so, you know, I looked back at their rate. And it was still, you know, it's 3.8, but it was up at 4.02, so it's always kind of moving. You know, so it's hard to say. I'm not gonna give up hope yet. So, let's not give up yet, but I know what you're saying. Okay, so then we're gonna move to the pension plan. At the end of November, we received our report from Morgan Stanley, the town's pension investment manager. The town pension plan is up 4.98% fiscal year to date versus its benchmark of 7.21%. Over the 3-year horizon, the town plan has returned 10.39% versus its benchmark of 13.01%. The fire department pension plan is up 4.71% fiscal year to date and has returned 10.04% over the 3-year horizon versus its benchmark of 13.01%. And both the town and the fire pension fund values are at all-time highs at this point. So overall, the Trinidad Group's responsibility is to oversee all monies belonging to the town. So as of November 30, we had total assets under management of $72.3 million. Next, we'll move to the numbers broken out, the revenue sheet. So page 2 of the treasurer's report show it's broken out in more detail. Tax revenues were $292,562, or 57.6% of the amount budgeted for fiscal year 26. In terms of local revenues, the town collected $175,419 locally, or $467,981 in local revenues, for the total of $30,776,496. So our interest and dividend income for November was $85,689, and otherwise it was a quiet month at town hall, and that's all I have. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. So I guess there's a question from Mark. I'm gonna keep trying to look up to see whether a question from you guys, but if I miss one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jump in.
No, but
You want me to- Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Barbara. I just had this is just still a learning curve for me. So the, I did notice on the zoning, and I think, were the expenses part of your report? I know you didn't go through them. I'm sorry, I don't have my email in front of me to know whether this came from you or Leanne. Operating
Both of
budget
us.
report expenditures. Okay. I just had a question on the fiscal year for the current period, I guess November, for zoning commission 415501. I think that's great that there's a credit there, $4,009. I was just curious if anybody knew what that was off the top of your heads. And I wouldn't expect you to. It's not a lot of money.
Mark, where are you?
On the- It's called the operating
that's
budget
mine.
report expenses general. That is yours. Okay, then I'm sorry. I will, I won't ask again, but feel free to get to that when you are at your part.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Anything else? No? Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Jordan.
Next item on the agenda is the finance director's report.
Okay, thank you. So far this fiscal year, we spent 24.1 million, or 45.6% of our budget. We are actually spending a little more than we did at this point last year. And it's gonna remain this way, this relationship through the balance of the year, because we have spent all of our highway, infrastructure money of $500,000. We had higher capital levels, and the fire department had a higher pension contribution than we have in the past. So those are going to continue to contribute to us running a little bit ahead of schedule in our spending, but it should even out by the time we get to the end of the fiscal year. Moving down to the ARPA appropriations, during November, we did spend just under $26,000 in ARPA funds. The majority of that was in the Cypress Cemetery. That project had actually just recently got off the ground, so I expect to see some movement in that now. So we have all of the projects are actually almost completed. The only thing that hasn't been completed is the flail mower from the Department of Public Works. And I expect that that's going to be delivered soon and that we will pay for it. So I have no worries there. So altogether, we've spent just a little bit over 2.7 million, and we have $248,000 left to spend, all of calendar year 26. I have the feeling we're going to make it there. We spend all of our money. Turning to page 2 of the finance director's report, we did, under capital non-recurring appropriations, we did have our town meeting on November 24th, and a piece of business was the appropriation moved by the Board of Finance for $12,000 for the housing plan consultant, and that has been approved, so that will move forward. On page 3, the cash flow summary, the general fund had an outflow of $2.8 million. As the treasurer just mentioned, we got in about $500,000 worth of revenues during November, and we spent about 3.3 in expenditures, so that left us down 2.8 million. In terms of our capital funds, we were down 174 million. That had to do with finishing up the construction on Beaver Dam, the Beaver Dam program that we had going on. For the reserve funds, we were down $12,000. We purchased a forklift, which is a named project. I'll point out in a minute when we get to the capital outlays. Offsetting that $45,000 purchase, we received interest, and also in November, we received benefit assessments from the WPCA, so that was where the money's coming in. And for the non-major funds, we were down 310,000. Again, our pension fund management was 160,000 of that. Using family services, about 42,000. Outside services had an outflow of 43,000, and Board of Ed spent 90,000. So that is what the major movers were of our non-major funds. Taking a look at capital outlays, a couple things happened during the month. Pointing out that Public Works balance is negative 48,000. I will continue to remind everyone that is our strategy, and it is approved. We paid for the forklift, so mine's 48,000. If you take a look down on the second half of the outlays, these are our named projects, and we have a lot of them. Those are the projects that we expect to be done during this fiscal year. We have purchased the floor scrubber, and we actually have some money left over. We didn't spend it all, 4,305. We completed the McMurray Field fencing project. In the spring, we're going to do the game tables and the scoreboard at Kavanaugh Park. We're in the middle of purchasing the water fountains. The forklift has been purchased. That actually should have a remaining balance of 0. So I have to fix that for next month. The building official vehicle has been purchased. We didn't spend all of that appropriation, so we have about 11,000 left over. And we spent money on the holiday lights, and we started to spend money on the EDC regrade. So made a lot of progress in our expected capital outlays for this year.
So the capital outlays, if the money's not spent, Presumably we want to put that back into our capital non-recurring funds. That's okay. Number one. Number two. Everybody, does anybody want a refresher just quickly on general fund, capital fund, reserve fund, non-major fund? Maybe you could just do a quick definitional. Just maybe
So,
for,
and I did do that
Did
during
you
the
already?
orientation.
All right,
about the
sorry.
Board of Finance members,
Sorry.
but I'm happy to do it again. We have over 100 funds. That are the general fund and then all of the other ones we call off-budget funds. And so and our accountants group the funds this way for us. So we have general fund and we have a group of capital funds that total up to the amount that's in this report. We have a group of reserve funds that total up to that amount that's in this report. And then the largest category of off-budget funds is called the non-major funds. And that's where we have all of our grant money. We have other programs that we have. And so the pension fund, things like that are in those non-major funds.
How would I look at where it says Board of Education, transfer zero, balance 1.15 million? Is that something that's accumulated over the years? Is there something specific that's allocated to?
So Board of Finance, that is, Board of Education, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's their strategic capital fund that we've been putting aside money almost every single year towards whatever it is that they want to use. And when they want to use it, they're going to come back to the Board of Finance and ask for it to be used.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So is some of that allocated for projects yet to go this year, or it's just there for future?
It's there for future. Carl, I don't know if you know of any, I don't know of any project, maybe air conditioning or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
yep, partly for the next project on HVAC, which would be at the middle school. And now that the Goodwin School is complete, I think it's complete. I know there was a little catch at the end with the Goodwin School.
I thought Chris mentioned that
What?
they said it was done, but it's not really done because they didn't do the gym and the cafeteria and a couple other spaces.
And then we allocated another
Right, and so they
400.
want to do that in the middle school next, right?
Right, and so that's how mostly those monies are going to be used. With the Board of Ed. And then these other revaluation, contingency, roof repair, post-employment payout, those are catastrophic illness. We try to accumulate monies in those every year by transferring from the budget to an off budget. Just so when we have these, and at one point, maybe we should talk about the catastrophic illness line item, which I know we've done already a little bit, but we could probably give an example. It's public information. It has to do with heart and hypertension, police officers, right, mostly. So, and as I said at a meeting, I think a month ago, our liability probably, well, it far exceeds that. But usually when you settle these cases, one case we settled, it's a payout over 12 years. Another one was 10 years. So if you can tackle it that way, you might be able to fund it. And yeah, so we accumulate, and those payments go out usually in July.
I think they want to change.
So, anyway,
And this contingency that's listed on
yep,
here,
yep.
that's for a contingency for capital projects.
No, it
That's-
is for
It's not.
That's
an emergency that comes up,
okay.
whatever, to be defined in the town someplace, general government,
Unexpected.
unexpected, that we
Expense.
haven't budgeted for, then we use that money.
And we don't use that money just, you know. We need a little money over here. Let's go to, we don't use it like that. We use it for expenses that are truly, if not emergency, just highly unusual, and there's just nowhere to draw money from. I can't even remember. We might have used it like 5,000 or 6,000 recent in the last 2 months for an expense, but you know, if we needed a new furnace or a major
Right.
furnace repair, we'd probably use that.
Or had a horrible winter with storm after storm after storm.
Probably not with DPW. You talk about DPW expenses? Probably not. We'd probably see how Bill was running as a department in terms of the budget, and if that budget looked like it was gonna go way over, we might come to the Board of Finance and say, hey, we need additional money into that budget. But we'd probably wait until May to see how the budget was settling out before we did that, end of the fiscal year.
And when you set the budget when we set the budget for the
Yeah.
year, there's not like a line that says $400,000 contingency. There's not, we don't include a large contingency just in the operating budget. The contingency, this is the
This is the
contingency.
contingency, and what we do is, and probably for a small, a maintenance project that's a little bit larger than small, but not enough to come to the Board of Finance would be a good example, but we set aside the $30,000 every
A year.
year. And then we let it build so that in case something, something comes up, we have that money there. So
So
that's grown over
budget
several
30,
years.
and it transfers to off budget and then.
And grows, yeah.
Right,
So
Thank
it's
you.
not just that amount.
Thanks.
ask them, ask it.
I'm gonna let you finish and
Okay.
then, yeah.
So on the last page, are all of the individual, line items and, everything is going first, let me say, everything is going as expected and there's nothing here that I'm concerned about. Mark, with regard to the zoning commission, minus $4,000. I don't know exactly, and I will find out and I'll email you, but what it most likely is that something got booked there incorrectly and we had to make a transfer. Maybe they thought it was supposed to go to the commission and it went to the planning or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. But it's gonna show when we do these transactions, they're gonna show up. So it's something
Okay.
occurred and I find out exactly what it was for you. And I'll
Thank
send
you, I
an email.
appreciate it. Thank you. You don't have to send me an email.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I am going to, after the presentations, I do have, under the other budget items,
yeah.
I'm gonna talk about it, but I'm not gonna do it right now.
Okay.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
But I want to come back to your offer to describe a little bit more about the contingency plan and so on. And I think in the past 2 years that I've been on the board, you guys have been very nice in giving us sort of workshop on the pension and the debt schedule and all these things. And we now have a lot of new members. I think it's probably time to be great if you guys can do that again, right? I mean, I think people have mentioned interest in these off-budget accounts and pension plans as well. But we won't do this next few meetings. I mean, the next few meetings are just packed with budget presentations, but we can do this later in the spring when you have more time.
Yeah.
It'll be good, yeah. Are there any other questions? Susan, Mark, we good?
Sure, can I ask one question? The 2.2 million in ARPA funds that's already been appropriated,
Yes.
who now is overseen, like who oversaw to make sure it's spent the proper way? Who managed that? And
Well, we did an accounting, so obviously they had the front end of all the approvals and the documentations. And all that information went up to accounting. And from there, we put things in some separate accounts if we wanted to keep, like the, economic development, social services, youth and family. It's in a separate account so we can see all the monies coming in and out. And then we wrote purchase orders for other things that were gonna be purchased to make sure that they came in. When we had outside entities that were, on their behalf, we gave them money. We would ask them to give us the bills. We would pay them so that we could make sure that they're, going for the right cause, et cetera. We count on our department heads, economic development, for example, to, purchase the items that have been appropriated properly.
I was really just referring to outside, not the town,
Oh,
like
Yeah,
like
so when
outside
they bring the
entities who
bills to us,
receive
we
funding.
pay them.
Is that how every single ARPA project that went to an outside entity was handled? So
Yes.
if someone got an appropriation of $50,000 for something, they didn't get a check for $50,000.
Unless like
The
for
town
example,
wrote the check
the
to,
Kate, when we did that museum thing, we paid for all those bills ourselves. We paid for them on their behalf in accordance with the ARPA appropriation. But if we gave money to an entity because they were harmed by COVID and they needed $10,000, we wrote them a check for $10,000.
Yeah. for loss of revenue, that for nonprofit
Right.
loss of revenue, they were able to make that claim. And so we would write a check. There weren't many like that, but a good example of what you're talking about is there was a gazebo built at the Saybrook elderly housing here. And, that was 90,000 or so, and we paid the bills. So that gazebo got built, we paid the bills. We knew it had to go through zoning. So we know it was done, we know it was done to the specifications that we required. And there are ARPA treasury guidelines on that, so if we get audited, we're in very good shape. This whole ARPA process was very long, a little torturous along the way, but I think the way we handled it in this town through a variety of organizations, by the way. Number one, the ARPA ad hoc committee, board of selectmen, board of finance, town meeting, and then involving the accounting department. I know Jennifer had a lot to do with a lot of these projects. It was very, the records are there, we can prove everything. And if there's ever a question, we're not worried about it,
Yeah, I was mostly concerned about the outside entity.
Yeah,
Not necessarily the town side of it, so thank you.
probably fewer than you think though, too.
Okay.
Good question, Eric. Anything else? Anybody else? Thanks, Leanne. Next item, the EDC.
Right. So I know there's a lot of new faces here tonight. And so if you have any questions, I know we're sort of starting to get into a rhythm. People knew what we were up to. And if I go over something that doesn't make sense because you don't have the backstory, feel free to stop me and ask a question. But I've been with the Economic Development Department for 3.5 years. So I have worked for the town for about 9. I started out as a freelancer and somehow they just kept roping me in with other projects. And tonight I have my cheering section here from the EDC. This is our chair, Dave Prendergast, and we have Susan Fish, Liz Swenson, Dave Vogel, and Erica Casenza. And so they are all here because they are intimately familiar with what we've been doing and to support our budget requests. So, thank you for taking another night out, everybody. I know you got to see this ahead of time, so I don't want to belabor every slide, but I'll add a little context, and like I said, feel free to ask questions about anything that didn't make sense to you or you'd like me to flesh out a little bit more. So this is just our budget overview. As you see, we really only are asking for a change in one line item. That is our marketing line item. We've asked for an increase. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, one of the major focuses of the Economic Development Department over the last few years has been spending our $100,000 American Rescue Plan Act grant that we got through the town. And that was for a project called the Downtown Business and Marketing campaign. And it has been meant to provide some infrastructure to our business community. During COVID, we know that a lot of small businesses in general really had a hard time. The hospitality industry was particularly hard hit. This project was conceived by the EDC to help lift up our business community and particularly in the beginning focus on some of those harder hit industries like hospitality, the small retail and things like that. And so we've created a bunch of pieces that no matter what happens in fluctuations, that we can provide resources to the business community moving forward. That includes a website, a community calendar, a lot of branding and marketing assistance. And so that is sort of the backstory on that, where we want to continue to support that investment that we've made. And then continue to support that infrastructure and our messaging, which, you know, the way people consume information has changed so much and it continues to change very rapidly. And so we want to keep focusing on the investments that we've made to bring information to the community and about our community to people outside of our community. So that's one of the reasons for asking for the additional funding.
And that is also over the course of two fiscal years, correct? Like this year and potentially next for marketing?
Yes, we may ask for another
So,
increase next year also.
To stabilize it at a certain funding
Yes.
level, essentially.
So I add to it a little at a time because through the calendar year 2026, which is half of this fiscal year that's coming up, we will still have our ARPA funding that we're using. So we've really tried to beef up our assets and take advantage of that extra funding while we have it to plan for the future. But we will want to stabilize that so that we don't use the investments we've already made. We're not looking for any major structure and staffing changes. Last year, if you'll recall, we did have a few changes and those have been helpful in meeting our workload.
With regard, we'll just add a little color here and there. So one of the concerns, I mean, Jennifer's very busy. She really is. She does a lot in town hall. Town report is under her purview, as well as the marketing, and she does a lot of communications also for the town. So one of the concerns was, well, how do you do it as a one man, literally no admin at all? But what we've done is we've offloaded some of the work to other staff, other of our town hall administrators, which you'll see in our budget under town hall administrators. So we, you know, Chrissy in our office is 40, is she 40 or 37? 37 and a half. So Chrissy offers some admin help to Jennifer. And I don't know if Alex does or not.
We haven't started that, but.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
As opposed to perhaps hiring someone into the office, you've been able to share resources.
And we did have a great high school intern last year who really helped with a couple key projects and that was free. And she was wonderful. So, you know, we take advantage of what we can where we can. So. Just these are some of the highlights from the year of what we've been focusing on. The top one is what I was talking about, you know, our downtown business and marketing campaign, which spans not only marketing, but also a focus on Main Street, which, as we know, is an economic driver for the community and also provides a lot of vibrancy. Let's see, we had our triennial award ceremony this year. We had a great success with our STEEP grant. Again, our Main Street focus, and we've made some significant gains this year. And a few of these things I'm going to go over in more detail, because I always pick a few of the accomplishments to highlight. And we've also been working really hard with some of the revitalization projects around town. I mean, the forefront is some of our focus on the seawall at Saybrook Point. We've got all our permits in line. We're just trying to get some final pieces in place so that we can put out an RFP for that work. And that will allow us to then use the grant we got a year or so ago from DEEP, the Connecticut Trails Grant, which will help us finish the scenic walkway and make some improvements to Gardner's Landing. And if we move forward with acquisition of the land at Saybrook Point to make a town park, this will, be an even greater accomplishment and be sort of like the icing on the cake down there with that. So looking forward to that. Working with the Mariners Way Redevelopment Committee, Carl formed an ad hoc committee this year. They've really hit the ground running, trying to implement some of the things that were spelled out in our 2024 study. We have 3 working groups going right now, one of which is focused on streetscape improvements, one on soil and septic issues, because those would be keys for redevelopment in that area. And then also outreach to the business community in that area. Because all of that land is privately owned, and so having a good relationship with the business and property owners and showing them what kinds of support that we can provide as a town if they want to make any changes or improvements to their property is, I think, one of the keys to accomplishing things there. So, and then we completed the RIVE study with the River Cog, focusing on transit-oriented opportunities in town, and I think that information will continue to inform some of our decisions in that area. Of course, special events, top of everyone's mind. We are integrally involved in that. And some of the holiday decorations around town, I hope you are all enjoying them this time of year. And then I'm also involved in some of the regional groups, which I think is important because, though our primary focus is on Old Saybrook, we are of course connected to everyone in the surrounding communities, and when we work together, we help each other. So I think that's important. So these are the 5 accomplishment highlights that I picked out to give a little more information on. And marketing, of course, has to be top of mind because, like I said, we are focused on spending our $100,000 ARPA grant. This is our pyramid of need, and we continue to work to accomplish the things on here. We've made a lot of gains with using our brand and being consistent. Say Old Saybrook, you'll see our little sticker in front of you. I'm shamelessly promoting us. There's also a little card that leads directly to our visitor website. And our digital footprint is also getting much more established. If you do various searches on Old Saybrook, such as, fall fun or alternatives to Mystic, we are coming up top of mind on those searches. So this is part of our strategy. When you do those searches and you see us come up high on the list, then you know that those strategies are working. And so just being consistent over time, we're really now starting to see a lot of results. Our messaging has currently been mostly business to consumer. In the next few months, we're going to switch a little more to business. And we continue to get earned media, which is placement on TV or in print that we didn't pay for. Somebody saw some information on us and they decided that they wanted to do some reporting on us because of the information they saw. But we didn't have to pay for any advertising or marketing to get that visibility. So that's always the gold standard, getting free publicity. And most important, we spend a lot of time measuring our success and then refining our approach. We do that in conjunction with the professional marketing company that we work with. We couldn't do it without them.
No.
Yes,
Which company is that?
Miranda Creative.
Oh, it's Miranda. Okay, and are they helping you with your search engine
Yes.
optimization on that?
Mhm. Yep. And so the next slide is some of our marketing metrics. we're doing very well this year. These are some of the ads that we've used. All of these are made with, professional photography from our own community, our own restaurants. None of this is stock art. I know that sometimes these, statistics can look like mud. Even sometimes they look like mud to us. But I do want to let you know that, the Economic Development Commission has spent a lot of time getting educated about the, statistics. We had actually a whole training session at one of our meetings this year where the head of Miranda Creative came and talked to us about, all of these things so that we can always be better understanding the statistics and providing the best value for the efforts that we're making. We will still rely on them because they are the experts, but at least we really feel like we're being good stewards of the funding that we've been given and watching things on our end and being able to ask educated questions. And you'll see that our social media following is up quite a bit, and also our ad clicks, which the reason that is important is because that's what we call a conversion. And so we're putting all of these impressions, which are just images. That's how many images are going out over and over again. But when somebody actually takes an action, like clicking on one of our things, that's what you want. Because then you're going to be able to collect their digital information. They're going to go the next step to finding out more information about you. And you'll see that that is way up for us. And so that's really important for us not to just have these images going out there, but then people actually reacting to them and acting on them. So, we know from also from the state that 10% of tourism growth leads to 2.5% growth overall in the industries in your town. And so a lot of our initial approach was more on visitor focused. And the average return on investment for a dollar spent in your community because of that is $8. So I really feel like based on those kinds of statistics that this investment that you guys have made is a good investment for the town and is returning for our businesses. I don't know if anybody has any questions about the marketing trips.
I just have a question. I mean, this is awesome. You've done such a good job, all of you, on working with our businesses and just, celebrate Saybrook and just improving, our quality of life here in town. We listened to, or at least some people were present, we listened to the superintendent last week just talk about really big plans in the school and how they're trying to keep the kids that are here from leaving. But I know in the past, we've talked about how do we get those families to town, and we've got a good story to tell. And I know we're talking about relationships with realtors, and when I look at that, I just, think maybe the one thing missing, and maybe we've been doing it, is, how are we promoting ourselves as a town to live in?
Yeah, I think that, so if you would hear our marketing guru describe it, her first vision is you start with trying to create awareness about your community and how people come here for a day, then maybe for an overnight, maybe for a weekend. And the more you get people here and seeing what your community has to offer, then you get to that next level where they start thinking about, oh, I like to live here, or how is the school system here? Is this the place that I'd like to raise my family? So it starts on that ground level, just getting people in here, and then you build from there. It's the same thing with the business community. We want to show that we're investing in them and supporting them, and that this is a good place for you to come and have your business because we're interested in your success. So
Yeah, no, and I think even just when I was looking up after that school presentation, just about where are schools rated these days? I mean, I have two college students who graduated, fairly recently, and we had, such great experience in our school system. And it came up that Old Saybrook is the second most desirable place to retire in the state. And, to your point, I think we've gotten that word across because we've gotten 45% of our population over the age of 60.
Yeah.
I feel like we're definitely, like hitting that really well. I was just kind of wondering,
Well, I
on the
do think
planning for the families.
there is room to grow in that area. Part of the problem is that we don't have a lot of housing.
That's why I
For
love the
young
Mariners
families.
Way connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we're not alone in the fact that there's declining enrollment. I mean, I'm from Hoop River. When my daughter started elementary school not too long ago, well, it was a long time ago, I guess, but it feels like it was that long. Anyway, there were 3 sections in every grade. Now there's 1. My daughter's 20. That's how, in that time period, that's how much it shrank. So it's certainly a challenge that everybody has. And, I don't know all the answers to it, but yeah,
Well, it's good to hear it's part of the plan. I mean, I
Yeah.
totally agree with that.
yeah.
One question.
Yeah.
One, I'm amazed by really the digital marketing space and advancements in the last few years and well beyond me. So that's why I have my son doing it for our company, but cost per click is pretty cool. How do we rank, if you look at Facebook to Google to what we consider kind of a peer group, and one would expect that as the marketing initiative expands, becomes deeper rooted, that cost per click would decrease?
Yes and no. So, in this instant, actually, I was looking back at some of our older statistics, and our cost per click has gone down, which is always good. It is something that you would like, but, it's not always the measure of whether you're being successful, which is one of the frustrating things about digital marketing. There's so many nuances to it, which is why I'm so glad we have a professional who helps us through it. But so the value of what kind of click you're getting is also important. So we happen to, even though we would like more young families, we do have a lot of mature residents who have a lot of discretionary income. And so when they click on something, it's actually worth more than when a 20-year-old clicks on it, because they would spend more here, believe it or not. And if someone's clicking on your ad and you're paying $1 for it, and they actually come here and spend their money, you're making way more than $1 on them. So, is it great to have a 24-cent cost per click versus $1 cost per click? Yes. But if you're converting a person, you're probably making back more than you invested on that click to begin with.
Makes sense.
So that's a long way of saying it's not an exact science, but.
But when when we're looking at, cars coming in the parking lot for the beach, the increase in the mini golf, that's direct from, assumably, and so those costs, like you said, it's not necessarily cost per clicks, but the number of clicks is really important to drive that tourism. And if we're seeing it on our beaches and on our mini golf and in our pickleball courts and on our restaurants, then it's, then that's where it's paying off. So that's really exciting, I think. Really good stuff.
That's exciting, actually.
Jennifer, sorry, just like we'll leave this page in a second. I just want to do just some quick math, right? So cost per click is 24 cents a click, and so am I reading right that there are 50,000 clicks-ish, something like that?
Yes.
And so we paid out almost $10,000 in clicks. Is that how that math works? 5,000. Yeah, 10.
So generally, I think we've been budgeting about $1,500 a month towards digital advertising. But sometimes we put extra money into advertising for our special events. And so this is kind of just an amalgamation of the entire year.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
You said 1,500?
yeah. Or,
Okay.
A month.
A month, yeah, no, I'm gonna basically multiply that by about 12, that's about 18.
but we don't always use that, but that's what we had budgeted for now.
Okay, 18,000, we spent about 10,000 on. Okay.
Yeah, but we are spending about 10,000 a year on digital marketing.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks, yeah. I mean, it would be then the company that, like Google, whatever, will get the money to hire you.
Yeah, so Meta, which owns
Sure.
Facebook and Instagram, we put it through there, and Google also. Those are the major things we use, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions on marketing metrics? It's always a long discussion at our meetings. So just to reiterate some of our results here, it sounds like some of you are seeing them. But these two images, for example, are from what I would call earned media. CT Visit, which is the tourism arm of state of Connecticut that some of you may be familiar with. They recently featured our Main Street for holiday shopping. These were a couple of the images they put up with it. We've been really trying to connect with our businesses and organizations. Sometimes it's just informal and they bring it up, and lately I've been really making an effort to engage them and just really try and get them to give me more specific information. Now that we've had a couple of years in, I really want to see, you know, is what we're doing visible to you? Are you feeling an effect in your own business? And a lot of our Main Street businesses have told us they feel there's more foot traffic, especially in the summer and the fall. There's been a documented increase in out-of-town visitors. For example, the Historical Society keeps track of their visitors, and they have seen more people coming from out of town, out of state, and they're not people who are going to the archives specifically to do research. They are coming to the campus to visit. They've seen that also in their special events that they host at the Kate. And some of the businesses on Main Street have told me that year over year, they're up 15 to 20% in some months. So I think that, I mean, obviously, we can't take credit for all of that, but I feel like all together, when you start seeing all these positive things, that we have to be able to take some credit for that. Any questions on this?
Should we assume that businesses that aren't on Main Street would see something similar?
I think so. I mean, part of our focus is on Main Street because it's such an economic center and it's all small businesses, but even, you know, on Route 1, we do have some smaller businesses also, not just the bigger stores. And I'd like to think that the traffic we're generating is like not just concentrated on Main Street, but in our whole downtown area, which is really the focus of our campaign.
Well, you don't see a lot of vacancy, so that's
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, and some of them turn over pretty quick, especially if some of the restaurants that have left this year, they immediately had new tenants. With the exception of our large Main Street. I'll talk about that. So this is just a little update on our visitor website and community calendar. This was one of the major accomplishments of the commission and the department. This past year, this debuted in November of last year, so we've got a year under our belt. And I just think that the statistics related to this site are pretty exciting. This year, I don't know if you've been to the site, but it's all original photography and video, and we have our video header is just a really beautiful way to showcase some of the things that you can do if you come here. Just in from November to the end of the fiscal year, 41,000 visits from 32,000 users. I think that's a really great statistic, and we really hit it out of the park for Celebrate Saybrook, 12,000 plus views that month. And so that is really showing, you know, not only did people come to town because of that event and see the town in person, but all that traffic went to our website in general. So not only did they find out information about the event, but you know, on that site, this is just one landing page on that site, you can find out about all that's going on in town. So I think that that is incredible visibility that we got there. And the community calendar has done what we hoped it would do. It has provided a free service to our nonprofit organizations, to our small businesses, to be able to really extend their marketing reach. Something that is, you know, it can get expensive, it can get time consuming, and we're offering this service to them. I mean, the amount that it costs us and the number of people that we're able to help with it is, you know, for a fraction of what they could do. And you'll see we've had 61 users this year and over 800 events, and at any given time, 120 to 160 events on the calendar. So I think that's a real success in the first year.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Do we have any, we're collecting, name, email addresses on any of our tourist type of stuff, like, you know, to be part of a newsletter? And I know a newsletter is a lot of work to keep up, so I'm not suggesting that, but just, would there be anything, that they could sign up for? Just so we could have those names and addresses?
Yeah, we haven't done that. I mean, the only collection we're doing is sort of like right now, you know, their IP addresses and stuff on the back end, that information is there
The
somewhere.
cookies kind of thing.
But yeah, I mean, I do think what I would love too is for people to be able to sign up for the calendar.
Yeah.
And to get updates that way, so that they don't have to remember to proactively go there. They get some kind of notification that keeps it top of mind. And I'm not exactly sure, what kind of automation that offers, but I think that would be a next logical step if we could do something like that.
Yeah, be a great database to build and maximize.
Hi, this is Mark. I'd just like to jump in. Jennifer, thank you very much. I want to say that in one of your earlier slides, you compared us to a professionally managed Main Street. From everything I can tell, this is a professionally managed Main Street and professionally managed economic development. So thank you very much. I think you do great work. I am going to have to sign off at 7:30, but I just wanted to chime in to say I fully support this budget request, and thank you for all the hard work you do and the difference it makes in our town. I'm so proud to live in this town because of it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
How do you coordinate with like the Chamber of Commerce? What they do stop and where you start, or vice versa?
So, I mean, we have a great working relationship with the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very grateful that we have such a strong chamber in town. They do a lot of business education and networking events, which I think is, you know, great for the business community here. And they also do their own special events, and we work together to promote each other's special events. But they also have a focus that is well beyond Old Saybrook. They are the Greater Old Saybrook Chamber, and they have members from all over the state. So in that way, I feel like our campaigns are a little more targeted just to this community. But we have a great relationship with them, like I said, and the things that they do really just enhance everything that we're doing to support the business community. So it's a great partnership. just wanted to point out, we've had a lot of successes with grants over the years and I think this really points to how we're contributing to advancing the quality of life in town. I mean, obviously, this year with the steep grant, that was a big one that we got. But over the last 3 years, this department has really been instrumental in helping to get over $2 million in funding and to support some of these bigger projects that I think we all agree are important, like I said, to the quality of life in the town and for the community. So I just felt like, wow, that was a great milestone to me and we should point it out.
Do you do all the grant writing out, let's say outside of the school system for the town, or are there others in town hall who do grant writing?
I do some of the grant writing, some of the narrative writing. I mean, all of our grants are a big team effort. They take a lot of work, but these particular ones I actually did write.
So in land use, they'll frequently apply for a grant to hire a grant writer. They've done that on a few resiliency grants. They're applying for one right now. But Jennifer is kind of the go-to for steep grant funding and for some Urban Act funding that we've requested because she's a very good writer and it just ends up over there and she does a very good job. So she's helped us get a lot of money in grant writing and that is something I wanted to point out. One other thing this board did do though, after the surplus either last year or the year before, because departments, it's hard to find the time and it can be very technical to write a grant. We put aside money, I think 40 or 50,000 for grant writers. And we've used that a little bit, not much. We still probably have like over 40,000. If it was 50, we've only spent like 5,000. But that money is available. If we see something, Jennifer can't do it or she's not available for whatever reason, we have the ability to go out and get a grant. I had someone ask me at a conference just the other day, how do you guys like find the time and the money to do grant writing? I'm like, there's a couple different ways. We have someone who can do some of the grant writing, but we put money aside for it, which I think was forward thinking. And we have that money ready to deploy when we need it.
Every 3 years, we do a little ceremony for some of our local businesses. This year was the year, and we recognize 6 businesses. Normally, we recognize the businesses that are very long-standing in the community. And it's always such a feel-good event because when you've invested as many years as these business people have, they are so thrilled to be recognized. And they deserve it because to make that kind of contribution over that period of time, I think is really important for the stability of your business community. So it is always actually a really fun event to see how happy they are to be recognized. And this year, we also awarded the John Baldoni Spirit of Saybrook Award, which is a periodic award. But it happened to fall this year on the year that Judy Sullivan, the time executive director of the chamber, was retiring. So it was perfect timing to recognize her for all her years contributing to the community. And then just as I mentioned before, Main Street has been a focus. We have been a member of Connecticut Main Street Center for the last 3 years. That was one of the things that the commission decided was important for our downtown business and marketing development campaign. As part of that membership, we get an annual assessment where one of their professionals comes here and you go through a list of more than 80 questions related to what you're doing in town and things like that. And then they give you a score. And it's hard to not go back to your school days where you feel like you're getting a grade, but it's really not a grade. It's just sort of a guidebook for where you're at, where you could be, We have actually grown significantly in our scores over the last 3 years. I'm sure that will level off at some point, but right now it feels really good to see the progress that we're making. And this year, for the first time, we got satisfactory across the board, which kind of sounds wishy-washy if you hear about it that way, but this is why I wanted to give this context here. The only higher score they offer is high performing. And usually you can only get that score if you have a paid professional who manages your Main Street, either full or part-time. We'll probably never have that here, and that's okay. And it's okay also if we never get high performing in every area. I think just the fact that we are being mindful of what's happening on our Main Street and, trying to make sure that we have the right balance and vibrancy and consistency there is the important part, that it's a focus. And I do think that some of what we're doing is infectious. This year, some of the local shopkeepers formed a Main Street Business Events Association. I'm not going to take credit for it. They're doing it, but we are highly supportive of it. And I do think that all of the efforts that everyone is doing are feeding off of each other and making more enthusiasm on Main Street. So I think that that's important. Cost containment, I do think that we are keeping that in mind with all of our efforts. Even though we are using a professional marketing company and spending significant money to do that, the type of services that we're getting and the variety of those services, we could not afford to do here. We'd have to spend a lot more to hire all that staff. So I think this is a great way to get a lot of bang for your buck. As Carl said, we're using existing staff to provide support for the department. And as I pointed out before, the way we structured some of our special event branding and things like that to support our larger goal has really paid dividends. So I think those are all important things that we've done. Capital expenses, I think you're going to talk about those more in a different meeting, but it was in the slideshow from last year, so this year. We continue to focus a little bit on the holiday lighting, and in the future, we kind of have a pin in doing some wayfinding related to the train station. I'd like to invite you all in advance to our upcoming business networking event that we will have at the Key on May 19th. We're gonna have some exciting video storytelling, showcasing our local businesses. We have a subcommittee of the EDC right now working on that. I think it's gonna be a really good event. And that is all I have, unless we have other questions.
Any questions for Jennifer? Susan, any questions? You're good? Great. Jennifer, thank you very much for the great presentation.
Excellent presentation.
And thank you very much for all you do, and also for your showing support. Thank you.
Yeah. They are very dedicated.
Yeah.
If anyone thinks of any other questions, or you feel like, you want more justification for our request.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Everyone involved.
Thank you, you too.
Very good. Next up, let's go.
Everybody's leaving, that should tell you about it.
It's part of my lead. Part of the lead in.
So Leanne and I are Larry's cheerleading circus.
Just a quick question on the last one. The ratio of salaries to benefits or vice versa, benefits to salaries, is that sort of there's nothing unusual about the,
Are you talking about economic development?
yeah, just how it was spelled out is like, we're spending $7 in salary for every $5 in benefit, or vice versa. Is that ratio like pretty much across the board?
Not really, because, you'll see in one person shops, for example, Jennifer and Larry are each individuals, but they made different benefit choices. So all of our employees, we offer a full package benefit to our full-time people. We don't know what they're going to take, whether they're gonna waive insurance or have a family plan. So the benefits really, apply to whatever the particular situation is.
And includes pension.
And she, well, yeah, sometimes they do.
I mean, that's a big number.
Yeah, yeah, she has mentioned her defined contributions.
Yeah, it just looked like a high number.
Yeah,
Spending
it is.
on benefits compared to her salary.
And
And I
that's
just
not-
wondered.
Right, that's just. I don't like to talk about individual
Right.
employees, that's just that department's particular profile. And in larger departments, you probably see something that's a little bit more consistent over time.
Yeah.
But it's skewed by the fact that there's one person.
Okay, and the benefit, and particularly the medical, health and medical benefits that person chooses.
Is correct, yes,
Okay,
yes. I'm gonna talk, when it's my turn, I'm gonna
Okay.
talk about that. It's our turn.
Okay, so now let me empty the room out. And I'll have to say that it's nice to see some new faces around the table. I'm Larry Gaten. I've been here for going on 13 years as the IT director. It's always fun to follow Jennifer because the stuff with economic development, the marketing, there's a lot of pizzazz, there's a lot of cool things to say. And then I come in after the room empties and talk about keeping the lights on and the phones working and the printer's printing and not running out of toner. So it doesn't get all that exciting. However, I'm looking forward to some, I'm sure, interesting questions. So go ahead and start out. That's the agenda slide. So the budget overview. Okay, there is a little bit over 5% total growth in the budget. And as you can see, the top one here is salaries. So it's interesting that $8,000 in the budget of this department drives this thing that high for the 3 hours a week. But we're looking at 35 hours going to 38 for the work that's being done. I'll talk to that a little bit in an additional slide, and Leanne in one of her presentations discusses that also. There are some other entries here, the big ticket item, $6,000. We're looking at the support that we get, augmentation from our MSP provider. We ramped that up over the last couple of years to 50 systems. It's going to be going to 60, so that all of the systems that are in town hall will be covered by the MSP. What that means is that they will be monitoring and handling all of the security patches, making sure that antivirus is up to date, and all that is taken offline and being handled by an outside provider. So it ensures that it's getting the level of detail that it really should be given to make sure that things are secure. And in the event that this is a one-person IT shop, so in the event somebody's on vacation and something has to be done, they're there and are able to answer the call and take care of things if I'm not around. The company that's involved used to be the on-site IT support here, contracted a number of years back, so they're very familiar. And we've been using them over the course of the years for various odd projects and upgrades and things, so they're very familiar with the environment. They're good partners. $3,500 is an uptick in the capital budget. It was recommended as part of the proposals that we went through in the last couple of years to reduce our hardware life cycle from 5 years to 4 years, so that we're going to be replacing equipment every 4 instead of 5, which basically results in a number of systems being replaced, more systems being replaced every year, about $3,500 worth. And we're talking about 4 computer systems. Last portion of this, the website migration. I'll talk about this a little bit more in a later slide. There is a jump here of $2,600. Basically, it's from around 6.5 to about 9. A good portion of this has to do with the platform being more robust. Another portion of it has to do with looking forward to the requirements that we've got for ADA compliance in 2027. That there are a lot of things in terms of the way the website is built and the things that have to be done to ensure that we're meeting the ADA compliance guidelines. And a portion of this is targeted to that, ensuring that we meet those guidelines going forward. So it's a ongoing process to make sure it's monitored and checked. So that's it. The staffing slide, this is the one that's always, it shows all the stuff the IT department does. Currently with 35 hours and increasing to 38, we are increasing from 50 workstations being supported to 60 via the MSP augmentation. Well, like I said, we'll get into the hours and things in a little bit. The next one, for those who are kind of new to the team here, this is a historical look back at some of the things that have been going on in terms of the overall IT strategy that Carl and Leanne and myself have been working on over the course of the years. And when I originally came here, all of the computer systems were locally on servers. It was like a little mini data center here, which was working, but it was exposed. It was at risk. And with the way applications are now moving to services that are external into the cloud to provide better disaster recovery capabilities, better business continuity capabilities in case something happens. Over the course of the years, things have been migrating off from our local systems to the cloud. So this helps in some ways because it reduces the capital requirements that we have for servers, but it does sometimes increase the amount that we have to pay for the external services to go ahead and work. Over the course of time, this is mostly kind of work to balance that out, so it hasn't resulted in a year-to-year increase in the budget. But every once in a while it comes up and it kind of catches us. And for example, things like reducing the life cycle on the computers and things come up and it generates a bump. Does anybody take a look at that? Have any questions about any of the stuff that happened there? No. Okay. Accomplishment. So first of all, aside from keeping printers printing, the most important goal in those days is making sure that the information is secure, that we don't get involved with ransomware attacks, that we're not losing data, that data is not being stolen, computers aren't being hijacked, and that we're meeting the requirements for the insurance companies to go ahead and be able to be insured. And one of the things that happens is that over the course of the years, every year the insurance companies come up with more ways to lock down our systems and do things to decrease the risk, but ultimately it results in more cost. So that's one of the things that happens. Now, this last year and a half or so, we got a grant, year and a half or so, it's year and a half or so now back, to go ahead and approve our security posture from the state and local government cybersecurity program or grants. And one of the things that we're doing now is going through the process of taking what was basically a small business type networking and computer environment and upgrading to a more commercial grade service. We're able to do that the vendor is working through a massive migration of this on the back end. And that is primarily what the grant program is working through. Additionally, because of the way that the licenses and things are being restructured, we may be paying a little bit more with Microsoft licensing costs because of the way the services are integrated. But there are other things like paying third parties for antivirus for individual systems that are being removed that shore up that and make it kind of a wash to end up with a better service. So that has been working reasonably well.
This was, I think, federal pass-through funds
Federal pass-through.
that, we applied for the grant. I think you could apply for up to 150, 180. I think we ended up getting about 90.
About 70,
70,
70, 80, yeah.
And, but of the entire allocation to the state of Connecticut towns, I think it was like 5% or something.
Yeah, that was, I should, I should have thought to bring that.
You shouldn't have. It'll
because
make
that was the grant.
longer, but
Yeah.
it was, so when I first got here and someone said, can we apply for a grant? I'm like, absolutely. And apparently there was a little grant suppression going on. And when you know, we're very open to applying for grants. I don't know if there was a match to that or not.
Match is small.
It was, yeah,
5,000.
But
25% maybe.
But obviously, any way to make our system more secure or. And so we got this grant and we got a fair bit of this state allocation for Old Saybrook.
Yeah,
Go ahead, I don't.
Yeah, when that originally showed up, you know, as Carl mentioned, the original grant request went out and it detailed maybe 7 or 8 different things that we would like to do and spend money on it and what could be done. And the state, because of the overwhelming amount of grant requests that came in, that decided to collapse the things that they considered to be within the grant scope down from the 8 things that were originally in scope down to like 1 or 2 of the ones that we had. So they allowed the amount, they granted the money based upon those couple. And as Carl noted, it was like close to 4% of the entire grant money that was offered, we ended up getting. And that's where one of 169 towns and municipalities, and
Yeah, it was well done.
we picked up 33rd of the money. We'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that worked out well.
Yeah.
So that's been going well. It's been a fun project. Other things going on, the network infrastructure, there have been upgrades. The Secretary of State has a network that comes into here. It used to be covered by old style cable broadband. So did the probate court. Both of those have been upgraded to fiber optic over the last year. And Wi-Fi services within town hall have been upgraded. Things that happened on the building permit services side. A couple of years ago, we upgraded the building permit tracking system to allow contractors to be able to submit the permits online so they didn't have to come in. And just this last year, we expanded it so that it actually allows for them to submit payments for permit applications that are pretty much, we'll say, rubber stamp or cookie cutter. Simple things like electric panel upgrades and various things like that, they can just handle remotely. You look at the cost, they can make the charges over the charge cards and you never have to come in. So that was an upgrade that happened this year. Another thing that happened this year, the zoning database, keeping track of all of the zoning applications, which used to be handled on a local database, is another thing that moved to the cloud over the course of this year. The website, come sometime in January, you will see a revamped version of the town website. The old website platform was being discontinued. It's not being supported anymore. It had to go away. And the tools that we used to edit it were cumbersome, we'll say, to say the least. The new platform makes editing, authoring simpler. In terms of the way the website works, it makes it easy to work on small devices, tablets and phones and things like that. So things would be easy to get to. The slide doesn't mention the ADA. A lot of this stuff has to do with the ADA compliance, but it does allow for citizens to be able to create accounts and mailing lists. It used to be on the old site, you could sign up for things like agenda and meeting distributions. There are a lot of other functions within the website you can sign up for now. There are additional employee access features. And one of the things that it's going to be really nice is ultimately when we launch, all of the historical minutes, agendas, and a bunch of the archival documents will now be in a full text searchable laser feature repository. which will be a lot easier to go ahead and get data and things from. And in some ways, the website, it's going to have the same color palette that we're working with now, and a lot of it is going to look very similar. But some of the restructuring is being dealt with for ADA compliance. The ADA compliance requires, for example, to have a relatively high contrast. They don't like text in front of gray or frosted type things like that make it difficult to read. In terms of the way the blocks and things move around the screens, there are ways that the standards would like to see that happen that are a little different than they were before. So there will be some bits and pieces that feel a bit different. You know, if you're gonna walk from Chevrolet and sit down in Mercedes, it's gonna feel different. You know, things are gonna look at, the wiper thing may be on the wrong side of the steering wheel, but you can get the car running. And it should be a nice upgrade.
When is that gonna happen?
It should be happening in January.
What's the name of the platform? Where it was Drupal? What's it going?
It's Drupal, it has gone to Civic Connect.
Civic Connect.
It's the same one that Essex and Westbrook are currently using. So. Digital signage. You may or may not have noticed that the digital signs that are out by Mystic Market and out here by the Cape have been upgraded. That was done with ARPA money. The signs that were there were 14 years old. There is a third sign that ARPA paid for that is currently sitting and running inside the town garage because we're looking for a place to put it.
Well, we're hoping on the west side.
Yeah, I need to say, I was a little bit glib on that one.
Yeah.
That sign is targeted for the west side of town, which when you go through there now, when you come in and come past Cuckoo's Nest and come to Benny's Plaza, there is a welcome to Old Saybrook sign there. And it is in a location that it would be nice to potentially put the new sign so that it could look at Route 1 and it could look up towards the road coming down to 95. The problem is that property has been tied up with zoning and design forever. And in terms of looking at what's going to happen. And every time they submit a new application, the driveways change, the open space changes, and where the thing is going to go seems to be up in the air. So to be able to get space set aside for us to put the sign there, it's kind of in flux, but it'll come. If the sign's running, it continues to be good. So Windows 10 end of life. For those who are aware of the Windows 10 end of life, the migration to Windows 11. We started on a campaign about 1.5 years, 2 years ago to get all of our systems redone. They were looking at the way they got handled. Some of them were upgraded, some of them were replaced, and some of them were recycled. There were systems that were capable of running Windows 11, but were due to be reconfigured and reimaged and brought new and refreshed. So some of those got recycled to new people into situations or kiosks where they didn't require as a newer system. Some systems got upgraded in place just fine. And we got to the point where we're practically all done except for 1 or 2. And those are being watched very closely. But that project pretty much met its goal. And you're one of them.
Yeah, I know I am.
Yeah.
Let's get me new.
As long as it's not keeping you up awake at night. Okay, so the cybersecurity, data protection continue to be, really the primary things that we make sure happen. That's really the key thing to get done. The insurance, the PCI, the moving nature of threats and things that change, that's always going to be dynamic. A quick note here on the 35 hours to 38. I looked back a little bit to see when we actually went to 35, and we went so we went to the 35 hours in the fall of 2019. That slide is incorrect. It went from the 25, it went from the 30, it went from the 30 to 35 hours in the fall of 2019. And a couple of notes about this. You know, in 2019, we had 65 systems, 65 user accounts, 65 mailboxes. We're out now up to 90. But another thing that's happened during that course of time is that was pre-COVID. That was pre-Zoom. That was pre-hybrid meetings. That was pre-cameras in here, which is all stuff that has to be supported. And along with that comes with the requirement from the state library and state statute to keep the meetings, present them publicly on videos and that kind of activity, which comes out of this budget. It doesn't take there's money that's spent for Zoom and there's time that's spent in personnel to go ahead and do that work. Timekeeping systems, credit card payment systems have been brought online during that course of time. Also, we've added extended networking out to the beaches, mini golf, the pavilion, added surveillance systems out there that are now running that are under the purview and the responsibility of the IT department to keep going. So, and the business has expanded over the past. So that in a nutshell is it. Any questions?
Larry?
Oh,
Susan, any questions for Larry?
This may not be a Larry question, but you talked about the building permit piece and the payment online.
yes.
Do we know what percentage? I mean, obviously over the last couple of years, the revenue from building permits has been significant. Do we know what percentage of permits are being filed online and done online as opposed to coming in?
The short answer to that, no. So it went online January, February this year. In terms of taking a look and the comparison of how that played out. The one thing I can say that was on the presentation last year is when we went to putting it online so that they could submit their initial applications, it went from 0 applications being submitted online to over 50%. So the contractors, they use it in the other towns, they're using it here now. So they've definitely been engaged. Exactly how the money breaks down in terms of credit versus cash. I actually haven't looked at. It would be an interesting thing to take a look at and see. Great question.
So I'm just gonna check it very quickly. We have a one-man operation. Larry does a great job. Cybersecurity obviously is of critical importance to me. I hear about it at a lot of conferences I go to. It's hard to get insurance if you're not properly secure. We, every year when we renew, something is requested and it's, we get the insurance every year. And Larry also has town hall users on a test basis where we have to take quizzes periodically to make sure we're staying on our toes with regard to phishing. But we've been very fortunate. I mean, really, the entirety of my career here has basically been with Larry. And I remember when we interviewed. So yeah, it's been really great IT. We have been increasing the outside support over the last few years, just to take some of that burden off Larry or as a fail-safe if Larry is away. So it's just been, it runs very well. It's very busy. And Larry also, by the way, helped immensely with the probate court transition, which we ate as town time, but I let all the other towns know that there was a lot of in-kind services that were provided in addition to the expenditures. So anyway.
So that's one of the things that somehow escaped the presentation, or I may have glossed over it. Is one of the projects that's currently going on is the one for the digitization of the property files upstairs. So there are somewhere around 600,000 pages of documents and things that are associated with property files and the parcels and things that are upstairs. Last year, we got the project approved to digitize that. We're in the process of working through that now. Boxes of materials being sent out, they're coming back. They're being put into an online repository so that we can make them available electronically to people so that they don't have to come in. And plus also so that they can be digitally searched and text search so you can find material that's out there. Really looking forward to when it gets finally fully deployed, so it's out there and people are able to use it. But it's a big project, it's a lot of work going on.
And we're dipping our toes in a little at a time to make sure it's being done right. And we're not just saying, oh, okay, go ahead and do it. I know there were some catches in the beginning.
Yeah, there's been some back and forth in terms of getting things the way we'd like to see.
So, the file room upstairs, I mean, land use has talked about it for years, you know, sometimes people go in and we're worried about a file disappearing or anything like that, or documents disappearing. So that will never happen again. We'll also gain a room, because if that room is, without files in it, hopefully gain maybe even a little more meeting space. We're always looking for that. So, anyway, that's a big project and Larry's been overseeing that. Been very fortunate, really.
Anything else?
Thank you, Larry. I mean, for me, I always view the IT department as sort of like a water faucet. You turn it on, you expect water to flow, and it's only when you turn the water faucet on, it doesn't flow, then people start complaining.
That's what you hope.
So as long as you keep the water.
No
flowing,
news is good news.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right?
business.
It's
Yes,
very
absolutely.
expectation that the water will turn on. So, yeah, it's tough work behind to keep it working. So, thank you very much.
Okay, very well.
You know, between the town and the police department, we're probably spending 200,000 on IT, which really doesn't seem like a lot, right? I mean, so that's the entirety of the town, and that's rough numbers, you know, but it's, you know, we're doing well, but we are also very, my brain is starting to go. We're very aware of the fact that we do need backup. And we're working on that. And we're working on that over the course of several years.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is on item 10, fiscal year 26-27 budget reviews.
That's some things I wanted to add.
All right.
So in the blue folders are your budget, folders you can put all your stuff in until we give you the final budget of collection source. But I have a few things I want to go over tonight. Number one is the budget calendar, which would bring us, this is the kickoff of the budget process. This is going to bring us all the way through referendum. Just a couple of things to mention. I'll go over the workshops in a minute, which is included in this calendar, but on January 15th, we are going to have a capital planning committee meeting, which is 2 members of the Board of Finance, first Selectman and the Finance Director, and I've already mentioned this to George, who's going to tell us who's going to be on that commission or us for volunteers at some point. And then before February 15th, the Board of Selectmen will approve a budget to submit to the Board of Finance, which will be delivered as soon as we have it done, but we, pulled together, but before March 1st. On March 3rd, we're going to have the public hearing. Obviously, that's for the Board of Finance, for the citizens of the town to learn about the general government and Board of Education budgets, and to be able to give feedback to the Board of Finance as you make your deliberations for putting the final budget forth to referendum. And then usually in March is when you confer on that. And then by the beginning of April, we like to have that as a target date to be all sewed up, because we have to put it in the paper and do notice and things like that. So The annual budget meeting is on Monday, May 4th, which adjourns to referendum on, it's going to be Tuesday, May 12th. And typically that night, we all get together after 8 o'clock. Voting closes and we set the mill rate. And if, we don't have to do it that night, but that's what we have traditionally done. So that's getting us from today to May 12th. Couple comments, the next sheet is the budget workshops. Obviously tonight is about information, technology and economic development. We will go over every single line item in this budget. Carl and I will do a lot of studies of some of the line items that don't move much. But for the big departments or ones that have had experience in material changes this fiscal year, we will bring them forth to you. So you will meet with IT, economic development. We did get confirmation last night that the police commission will join us at the January 6th board meeting that we're going to have. However, we request, and can I say this or did you want to say this?
No,
It's okay. All right, so I requested of chair that we start at 6 o'clock that night because we have the auditors coming in. And so we'll start our meeting a little bit earlier. We'll hear the audit presentation. And then at 6:30, we'll do the meeting with the police commission. Now, for those of you who haven't done this before, this is going to be the chief's presentation of his budget to the police commission. The police commission then meets a couple more times, and then they're going to present their final budget to the first selectman. So some changes can occur from what we're going to see on the 6th to what they actually present. And then typically the Board of Finance asks after that budget is finalized, come back maybe sometime in February, late February or March when you do your deliberations. I haven't heard from the Board of Ed. Sometimes they come in and I'm working with the chair on that to see if we can get them to come in and tell us about their budget, which they have traditionally done before March 1st. Let's see, I think that's it. So we should have all of the presentations wrapped up by Tuesday, February 3rd, to get everything ready for the Board of Selectmen. Does anybody have any questions on this calendar or the workshops? Yes.
The end of January where we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that was what we talked about.
Oh, right.
Not doing Saturdays anymore, right? Where we do like a 5-hour Saturday meeting, we moved it to multiple during the week, right?
Yes, thank you. I did want to mention that. And we're starting at 6 o'clock so that we're not here all night long. So probably starting at 6 p.m. Versus 6:30. So what is that?
Is there a February 17th meeting?
Yes.
There is, okay.
Did I miss that one? Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so it's still scheduled.
Yes. That meeting doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the budget at this point, but you may, maybe that's when the Board of Ed comes in or for something you want to talk about. At any point, you can always ask myself or Carl to have budget topics related wants to select to it. So happy to do that. Okay, that's the scheduling. I have two more pieces that I wanted to go over. One is, the first one's going to be the salary budget information for this fiscal year. So in the finance department, I budget all the salaries, I budget all the benefits, salaries and benefits. If a department head, like for example, IT requested for a salary change, or maybe a department head will ask for another person or whatever, the department head will come forth and include that in their presentation. We have collective bargaining agreements for 95% of our employees, and so it's set in stone. So it's easy for me to do those salary increases. For this year, the support union, they have a 3% increase. The supervisor contract was about 10 employees and supervisors. They're still, they're under negotiation now. So we just put in a bogey of 2%. That doesn't mean anything. It just puts something into the budget so that whatever happens, we won't have to, feel a big, shock to the budget, so to speak. Same thing as police field services, that's, in contract, it's gonna go up 3%. The dispatchers is a little larger group than the supervisors, and the supervisors are all in individual budgets, so we did the assumption for the dispatchers was 2.5%, just because of the concentration.
So the dispatcher's contract expired on June 30th of 2025. So we are, we've had several meetings with them and we've had no progress. So one other thing that can happen here is members of the Board of Finance are welcome in negotiations as you do with the Board of Ed. And as, if anyone wants to, and including Jane and Scott, you can actually sit in on these negotiations. They're non-meeting meetings. That's the one meeting we can all be together and we don't have to call a meeting. But if members of the Board of Finance wanted to sit in and watch or listen or comment afterwards, maybe, you're more than welcome to it. I kind of wish you had been there for the dispatcher negotiations. The person who negotiates for the dispatchers has a style that sometimes is a little bit more confrontational. That's what I would characterize it as. I think that's fair. And he represented, that union represented the police union for many years. And then the police union moved on from that negotiator and went to a different, so this is the only union they have. And we were so far, we brought in a mediator and said, let's try to do something here. And the parties were still very far apart. So while there is money in for a raise for the dispatchers in fiscal 20, that contract has expired.
Right.
In the current year we're in. And we only usually get 3-year contracts. So by the time we settle this, we're gonna be practically negotiating again. But the point is to not end up 2 years down the road and say, hey guys, I need $150,000 for back pay. The idea is to put something in there and that way we're not like digging out of a hole a little later on. I think the supervisors are up June 30th of 2026. We'll start those negotiations probably in February or March. And again, it might be worth one person, one or two, more than welcome to sit in and watch the negotiations. I'm sure many of you have been in negotiations. They can be kind of slow and move along, but kind of not in a great way. But anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. So those are two moving targets, okay? Dispatchers were already lapsed contracts, supervisors are coming up.
People are we talking about for the dispatchers?
Dispatchers about 9, 8, I think actually 8 right now.
With one vacancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's 8 full-time. And supervisors is probably, I don't even know, 10. Yeah. Two small unions.
So they've been without a contract for 6 months.
Yeah, but they're getting paid at their old rate.
Right.
They're getting paid. It's not like they're not.
That's what most of the state is doing now too.
I'm sorry?
The state employees are kind of in the same
Yeah,
situation.
are they?
But then they get retro for like 3 years in a row. That's,
Yeah, so, yeah, we're at this point, we've requested arbitration. I'm hopeful. In 13 years, 14 now plus, have never had an arbitration. We've been able to come to a settlement. And you start looking at the costs of an arbitration, right? And you say, and they have to look at the cost of an arbitration. And, you hope the parties can come together at some point. So, but, if there's this much of a disparity between the two, then you do what you gotta do.
Gone through mediation already?
Say again?
You've gone through mediation already?
We attempted to mediate with the dispatchers about 2 weeks ago. And, I don't want to comment on what actually happened, but yes, we did and it failed.
Wow. Wow, amazing.
Yeah, that's it.
So, we have all of our department budgets in, at the moment, so this is fairly well baked, but it's not completely baked. And so with those caveats about what's being negotiated, salaries for this fiscal year at this point are up 246,000 or 2.90%, which seems reasonable. The two largest unions, port and police, they're getting 3%, and our assumptions for all the others are a little less than that, so 2.90 is about right. The second page has all what I call changes outside of the norm. Every year now we have an increase in minimum wage, by the way, you know, it's going from 16.35 to 16.94, that's up 3.6%. Again, that pushes, it's on the other side of the memo. One turn the page, you know, that pushes up against all of our other wages, and so we have to take that into consideration. That mainly affects Park and Rec and the library, because they have a lot of minimum wage employees there. In Town Hall, what you're gonna see during the budget process is that we had a person leave the tax collector area, and we hired a new person, so we hired that person as a town hall admin, so we're moving it out of the tax collector budget into town hall with all the other admins. And we changed it from a level 9 to a level 8 to be consistent with all of our other town halls. So that transfer was made, obviously, because we had a vacancy. Information technology, we talked about that position tonight. I just want to make a couple of comments on it. Number one, that is a salary position, that is not an hourly position. And so when that position went to 35 hours, they became qualified for full-time benefits and such. And so that was one move. And, you know, he talked a lot about the hours, 35, 38. That was just to help us all understand the amount of extra work that is involved, so that, you know, we can come up with a metric to justify the salary. It's going to be spending more time, and so therefore his is going to be increased. But I just wanted to let you know, it's not an hourly position, it's a salary increase, but associated with the extra work. Emergency management stipends, we set at 9,000 for the director and 4,500 for the assistant
There
director.
currently is no deputy at the moment, so just we only have the director.
Who is that?
The current chief.
Okay.
Have we ever had a deputy?
Yes,
Who is it typically?
it used to be Mike Gardner.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The other thing that you're gonna see in this year's budget is the fire department stipends. So we don't pay, we have a volunteer fire department, and they have, did you want to speak to
Yeah,
this? Okay.
So crisis with volunteer fire departments all over the state, not enough volunteers anywhere. And really you have volunteers who are in the officer position, chief, deputy chief. And a lot of the towns around us have gone to a stipend model to kind of incentivize people coming forward for those leadership positions. Because it's really kind of hard, and it's not that desirable, to be honest with you. It's fine to be a volunteer, and but when you go into a leadership position, there's a lot more responsibility, keeping track of people who go on calls and all that stuff. So Joe came to me, and he did not come into the office and say, this has to happen. He said, towns around us are doing this, and he's been chief for 12 years, I think he said. He said, I'm not gonna be chief that much longer. And trying to figure out who's gonna be chief next, and not a lot of guys really want to do this stuff. So he's mentioned that towns are going to a stipend model. The idea, he actually recommended double these amounts. What I'm doing is introducing this over the course of 2 years, so there's not as much of a hit to the budget. And then the stipend model will be in full effect in fiscal 28. This is not mandatory that it happened this year. If the Board of Finance said to me, you know what? When we need to do it, let's do it. My thought was, I know Clinton's doing it, and I know, and I've talked to Norm Needleman at length about Essex. The fact of the matter is, Old Saybrook's department is incredibly strong, and we are a regional department essentially at this point. With regard to mutual aid, it's rare that other towns are coming to us with mutual aid. We give our department a lot, but we get a lot out of it. So my idea was to phase this in over 2 years. They will get paid this year, that amount. But the requested amount will happen over the course of 2 years.
I forgot to put the amounts in there. So the amount for the budget for fiscal year 27 is 15,000, and then it would go to like 30,000 for fiscal 28.
10,000 for the chief
Yeah,
stipend.
but then we were only gonna budget 50%, so that totals 30 grand if it's full up, and then half of that this year's 15, so.
So that's,
get paid the full amount.
I'm sorry?
They won't get paid in the first fiscal
Yeah,
year.
they will. They'll get paid the five, yeah, but. Joe did, like I said, Joe didn't come in and said, hey, pay me, you gotta start paying next year. But the idea is to just phase it in over 2 years, but they will get paid, but half the amount, the requested stipend. The full stipend will kick in 28.
They already get a pension.
They have a non-contributory pension that the town puts forward, as do most towns do that with their volunteer fire department, as well as a property tax exemption.
They do get it.
Yes,
Okay.
the maximum amount. Yep,
Is the stipend, I'm sorry.
I was just wondering, what's the maximum that? they get?
2,000
That's the most they can get on the property
off the
tax.
property taxes.
A stipend very similar to what, Essex and Westbrook?
Yeah, yeah,
That's it.
and Clinton, yeah.
So this amount you listed is actually what it will reach 2 years from now, not even
Yes.
now. Wow,
Yes.
okay. And is it gonna be adjusted for inflation and so on?
So speaking of stipends, when we do set a stipend, we don't change it year to year to year. We
So-
keep it the same. And go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's okay.
jumping all over you.
Yeah.
I would say the Board of Finance should look at that.
Yeah. Interesting.
But what we have done is, for treasurer, the registrar, we have lots of stipends that we pay, the tree warden, harbor management is next. Typically, we set a stipend and we don't necessarily, that's just what we have done. And as Carl said, it can be revisited, every year. But the next one on the list is the harbor management stipend, and it hasn't been revisited for 4 years. And so, we did increase that because we took a look at it and decided that it needed a very small increase from 10,000 to 10,800. Again, I neglected to put the amount in there. The library is next on the list. They have a category called additional hours in their budget when they come forth. So they have their core of regular employees, and, they're in the union and they're paid what they're paid and they work the stipulated amount of hours. But for Saturdays and Sundays, they have extra people that come in that are part-time, seasonal, whatever, part-time employees. So we're increasing that 21,000 as a fairly large increase. Number one, you saw the minimum wage going up, so it's always pushing on that ceiling. Number two, they're having trouble staffing the library, so they went with a wage differential, and all of that has to be fully, pulled into the budget. So that's going to be, a little bit of a significant increase, and I wanted to explain that. Here, it's not like we're adding more people, it's that we're paying them more situation. Marine Patrol, we actually are reducing that salary. We just looked back historically of what's been paid, and so it just makes sense that, we're putting too much in that budget, so we've moved it down to closer to actual usage. And then in the police budget, they have this is all contingent on what happens, but the recommendation is going to be to have a captain position at 125,000. There's currently a second in command position in the budget, but it's not. So we'll hear more about that when the police commission comes up. One of the biggest moves, though, that we're going to see, and it's actually not a big move monetarily, but we are going to, and all of you probably don't know this because you haven't been on the board, but the police budget has historically had about 8 line items, and they budget for vacation coverage, sick coverage, professional development, holidays, all kinds of things. The reason why they did it that way in the past is because there's a liability. So we have a collective bargaining agreement and it says you will pay these holidays so they can figure out how much it's gonna cost, right? It's a way for them to measure the liability and then stick it in a line item and then be able to budget against that line item. So, for us, it's not really all that, for the Board of Finance or for accounting or for the management of, it's not all that important to see this. What we know is that we have a staff of police officers and either they are working or they are not. And when they're taking their collectively bargained time off, somebody has to cover for that. So you have a salary line item and then you have a coverage line item. And all of the coverage, according to the contract, is paid at overtime rate. So I spoke with the new chief, and again, he's gonna present this to his board, police commission board too, but the idea is to just have two line items, salaries and overtime. In that presentation, he will still have to do the analysis of how you come up with that overtime line item, but it'll just be one line item. The reason why we're doing that is twofold. One, everybody in town has a timekeeping system. We all have timekeeping systems, but ours is, electronic and theirs is by paper. And, it'll be easier once they get their system to kind of upload it if it's regular pay and overtime pay. And also with the big beautiful bill, we're still trying to figure out tax on overtime and how that's gonna work. And we want it to be consistent across how we do it for every single department. So therefore, all the other departments have salary and then they have overtime. And for the police department, what that is in particular, how that would be from a monetary perspective, is that in fiscal 26, they had $560,000 in these other categories. And this year they'll have $567,000 in overtime. So you're going to see that switch. And I want to point that out because it could get confusing when we're going through the presentation. And then for the police support service, last year they had 172,000 in these other categories, and this year they're going to have 182,000. So you will see them talk about all of their liabilities during their presentation. Budget, hopefully it'll be handled this way. So those are all the structural changes. I have two more things to discuss, but does anybody have any questions on anything?
We have that, the new chief that
Yes.
wanted to do it that way.
Yes, yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think it's easier for us. So this is this large sheet here. I just want to point out that I've highlighted the word draft. There could be mistakes in here. We could have changes that are going to be made between now and January 15th. But I think it's nice when you have a department head come in, if you want to look at their staff and see what their salaries are. It's every single employee in town, what they make, their benefits, etc. And also, and I'm going to come back to this in just one second. And then also you have this shorter sheet, which is all of every single department's budget by line item. So we saw IT and economic development tonight, but they had all of salaries together, all of benefits together, all of operations together. Here you can see the detail. Again, this is a work in progress. There could be mistakes in here. I'm not done with this. I haven't finished capital. I haven't finished debt. I have till January 15th too. So, I'm not done yet. So things could change. The Board of Ed, I have no idea what their budget is going to be. I put an assumption in there just to have something. I have no idea, so there's things in here that are estimations. So I just want to make sure that everybody treats this document as such. So I just want to show you how to read a couple things. So if we look at accounting is first on the salaries and accounting is also first in the budget. So if we look everybody can get that. If you look at their new budget base salary, you'll see it says 315,340 for a total. Does everyone see that? And if you look under the accounting department, under the first two items, regular employees and overtime, those two add up to the 315,340. So that's the summary, and here's the detail. Then we have FICA, 24,277. That's a couple line items down. And then on the salary, we break it out, healthcare, HSA, waivers. And then we have total healthcare, 77,198, and that's the amount that's budgeted on the department. But you can see in the salary schedule how we break it out. Dental, 1,612, workers' comp, 631. Might be going a little fast. Sorry if I am. Retirement. This is something that's unique because we are in the midst of this change in our retirement system, where before 2017, all employees were in the pension plan. And in 2017, we switched to the defined contribution plan. So if there's a department that has a lot of folks that are in the defined benefit department, like the police, or employees that have been here for a long time, like Carl and me, our pension contribution is one line item in the budget. It does not show up on this sheet right here. And it does not show up in this the department budget either. If a new employee comes online and they are in the defined contribution plan, they will have an amount in this retirement column. So you see some employees don't have any cost for their retirement. Some employees do. That's the difference between defined benefit, defined contribution. And sometimes it does, as to your point, affect the budget because that's a cost that maybe other departments wouldn't have. Not controlled from the department. And so life insurance, et cetera, are there. So again, this is the detail. It's nice to look at this as before the departments come in because it's more information. And then of course the salary schedule offers more information yet as we go through all of these department presentations. Yes.
If I just follow up on an example with the accounting. So if you look at the large sheet, which basically is just salaries.
Yeah.
The total employee expenses is 434,000, for example, right?
Yeah.
But your total for the accounting is 491,000. And so the difference then of about 50,000 will be non-salary benefit type expenses like professional education, technical services, postage, supplies, and so on.
That's the part that the department heads are going to come in and talk about.
Right, but that's just a ballpark in terms of what percentage of their budget is non-salary benefits.
Correct, and a lot of those departments are very similar. They have a large salary and benefit component. All the departments now have some sort of accounting system, or not accounting, some sort of software system that they use that's specific to their type of permitting, accounting, park and rec, whatever they have, and then they have all those other expenses. So they're all pretty similar like that.
Great. Other questions? I have to apologize to you, Susan. I'm not sure whether you actually got this stuff beforehand.
She did not get it, and it's in my office ready for you.
Oh, wait, she has it?
No.
No.
This is
she
the
doesn't.
first thing that I didn't get. I got everything else, but not this ahead of time, and I'll come pick it up.
You want me to follow along, so yeah, very sorry about that.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
That's all I have.
great, thank you.
Taking notes. Thank you.
Any questions for me?
Are we, maybe I missed something, and I'm confused about this stipend for the fire department. It's a great thing, by the way, I think it's great, but are we only gonna pay them the 50% then for this fiscal year?
For the next fiscal.
Okay,
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, sorry.
then it'll go up in fiscal year 28.
Correct.
To what you actually have listed here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So before we leave this, is that it for this section?
And then leave somebody for the.
Yeah, I was gonna do that. I mean, because before we leave this section, So Leanne has asked for 2 volunteers for the capital planning committee. I think Steve already indicated that he would like to be on it. I need 1 more volunteer. Oh, great, they can volunteer. Very good for, can the chair attend explicitly?
You can come.
Thank you so much. Last year, in fact, I was one of the volunteers and, Brad was the other volunteer. Thank you. We're gonna move along. So, Selectmen's report.
I'm quick, because I know there's another topic, Acton Public Library is very close to their final goal of raising all their money. Honestly, I think they're about, by the time the calendar year closes, they'll probably be 30 to 40,000 away. I may come in and ask this board to just close the loop on that. If they're that close, because the key is to get on the state bond agenda sooner rather than later. And if we can tell the state bond commission we have all our money, it's in the bank, then we can get on the agenda. And I don't wanna let this, they've done a good job raising the money. Private donors have been very generous. It was 75,000 3 weeks ago. I think we're down to like 45,000. I did the press release. We did a little article in the Harbor News, so I may ask this board to, if it's 35, 45, somewhere in there, to fund that, okay? I may bring that up at a later point. Construction on Route 1, it has ended for the season. What's left is just the sidewalks. They finished the big dig, which was the drainage, which was an absolute nightmare. I don't know what the consequences of that for traffic control and maybe some other overages. That is something I'm gonna get with my engineer on in January when all the bills are in for the drainage. The drainage was a subcontractor of the sidewalk contractor. So we're all gonna sit down and try to figure that out. Mark Delmonico's last day, I think, is Friday, our tax collector. Mark has agreed to stay on in an as needed, if he's needed, he'll come in, but Mark's done a great job. I just wanna recognize him here. I just wanna mention, Jane, Scott and I were at the Historical Society on Sunday to recognize Marie McFarland, the president of the Historical Society, and all the great work she's done over the last 20 years. Amazing. And it was great to have the whole board there. I've seen the first renderings of the DPW garage, kind of more of a barn style. It can be any color you want. They had red on the paper, coming along very nicely. We had some final tweaks and then they're gonna go full bore. And I do believe we're having an agreement, in full on a lease, purchase and sale and lease agreement on the Dock and Dine issue property. So that will be addressed at the next Board of Selectmen meeting to perhaps set out a schedule for the town's folks to vote on this. That's all I have. I don't wanna.
Was there a quote on the PDW garage?
Is a what?
A quote?
No, there isn't. No, there isn't. They will, as they develop it, they're in early stages.
Right.
They will give us an estimate and then it'll just go out to bid.
See,
And
at one point it was 5 million.
well, it was more than that even, but we've made some changes that I think are gonna save some money and we have some money set aside, of course. But that doesn't save any money. Don't have anything yet, but probably in the spring, I'll have an estimate for you. I would say. There will be, I think I told everybody on this board, there will be a bond issue, in 2026 for this board to consider. No,
Oh, 127.
no,
Fiscal year.
20, there'll be a bond issue for the DPW garage and perhaps one other project that will come before this board.
A new AA1 rating.
That's right.
Yeah.
What was you said the drainage associated with it? I didn't know.
Under the sidewalks, there was a drainage project that had to be completed.
Oh, okay, that you would have to do regardless of whether we.
That was
did the
part of the original.
Crosswalks?
Yep, part of the, not the crosswalks on Main.
Oh,
This is Route 1.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And you said that's essentially done, the drainage?
It's done. Drainage is done. About 4 weeks late.
Are they done working on crosswalks for the year?
What's that?
Are they done working on crosswalks?
No, they were out there today. They'll be out there all week. They're not going to finish the crosswalk across 154 Main Street, but they'll probably be able to finish all the other parts and then the temperature has to be, obviously, to put down this thermoplastic lining that will be going in the crosswalks, it has to be a certain temperature. So I think they're just gonna do that it's much safer to do it in the spring, so that'll get done there.
Thank you, Carl. The next item is considerations for liaison relationship. I'm going to ask that we table this item, be given the time. Yeah, I mean, we can make a couple comments, right? So there's been a lot of interest in that, but I think we should table this. But a couple of things I do want to mention. One is the current process in which the budget is being presented, I think is pretty new. It's been here ever since, but every department comes in, and so we get to see it. And so in some ways, we get to see the budget getting built even before Leanne gets it all. And so in some ways, that helps a lot. And also Carl has also offered any one of us to actually join the mediation process. And so certainly that's open invitation. The other thing we can do is also just do it organically, right? There are particular board information you're interested in, just go ahead and join that. I mean, I plan to end the Board of Ed meetings until that budget is presented. So, anyway, just say that, but maybe just a formal discussion of how we're going to do this. We should just table that until after this this whole budget presentation cycle is over. So, everybody's okay with that? Thank you. Public comments? Nobody here.
No one online.
Nobody online. Comments from the board members? None. I have just a couple comments. One is our next meeting is January 6th. It's going to be at 6 p.m., which is half an hour earlier now, just for a remind everybody. And to let Jerry know whether you can come or not. And finally, happy holidays, everybody.
Yes.
I need a motion to adjourn. Thank you. A second. All in favor, please say aye.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.